So here's the top 10 lead sources for realtors, okay? We're gonna go category by category so that you know what are the best places for you to spend your time as a real estate agent, so that when you're coming up with your strategy and you wanna know where to invest your time, energy, money, attention, so that you can build something that's gonna take on some momentum, you know exactly where to focus it to get the best results for the input that you put in. So we're going to go through this, and we're not talking about lead source as in like Zillow versus Realtor. We're talking about lead sources category by category, like working your sphere of influence versus working expireds or social media, right? So we're going to look at each one of these categories in depth, and we've got 10 lead sources and we're ranking them on their criteria. We've got 10 criteria identified that we've assigned a value to from lowest to highest. So a lot of thought went into this, but we're gonna go rapid fire. We're gonna count down the top 10 lead sources for realtors. And then if you want more depth on this, we're gonna get into a little bit more depth at the end. And then in future videos, I'll elaborate on this some more, and we're gonna get into each one of these categories so that you can have a savvy strategy that's adapted to your preferences, because the best lead source for one realtor is going to depend on which one of these criteria matters most for you rather than for another agent. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and let's go through the top 10 lead sources for realtors. You got the format over here, right? On the left, we've got our lead source, and then we've got our 10 criteria, and then all the way over at the right-hand column in column L, we've got our total score, okay? So real quick overview of the criteria. Again, we'll cover this in more depth in other videos, but we're looking at the total cost per lead. We're looking at the upfront cost per lead. In other words, how much do you have to spend upfront versus how much do you spend at closing, right? Looking at the immediacy of the lead. In other words, how quick is this lead gonna turn into money in your pocket, right? We're going to talk about the time input. How much time does it take you to work each lead in this category? And then the competition. Is this something where you've got to compete with 5 other realtors to land the business? Or is this something where you just show up and list a property? Okay. Then we're going to look at the momentum, because sometimes a lead source can take on its own momentum. You get this flywheel effect where you build it up and it keeps producing more leads for you. So that's a factor as you put together your strategy for your real estate business. Then we're going to look at your brand impact, because some lead sources and some ways of approaching each lead source can build your brand. Others can really negatively affect your brand, and others are more in the middle. Then we'll look at the scalability, right? Is this something that you could scale up with more time or more automation or more money? Is there a way you could take the inputs and take the lid off and get tons of output for it? That's a big factor too. We're going to look at the ease of implementation. Is this something that anyone can do? Something that you need some specialized skill or information or software or some setup for it? And we'll look at the predictability, right? If you go for it, how likely are you to get a good result? So we're going to look at all those things. We've got a score 1 through 10 in each one of these, and we're going to go rapid fire. And wouldn't you like to know the total score for our first category, which is FSBOS and Expireds? Number 10 on the list, the worst out of 10. There's a lot more, so it's not that bad. This one's got a 31, okay? FSBOS and Expireds, what are we talking about here? We're talking about homeowners that have listed their property with another realtor, and that property expired, and they might like to relist, and you could be their agent. Or a FSBO, a for sale by owner, is someone that wants to sell the property themselves, but is unlikely to get good results because they don't have the right skill set, the right tools, the right access. And so you come in and list their property and get better results. So you can reach out to these clients and you can help them list their home. It's an identified need. They want to sell, but it's a very public event. Lots of people know what's going on. And so you can get a list of expireds for pretty cheap, but you got to work it. And then there's a lot of competition. And they're also not the easiest listings. You know, if an expired was going to sell, if it was an easy property to sell, it likely would have sold the first time. So that one's got a score of 31, number 10 on the list. Number 9 is social media. Paid, right? So Facebook ads, social media ads, any of the social media platforms. When you look at the cost per lead, relatively speaking, they're pretty cheap, right? And you look at all of the other factors, this is a very accessible source of leads, but also people are often fatigued, right? You end up with percentages somewhere between 2 and 3% of these leads will convert in any given year if they're worked pretty well. So that's number 8 at a total score of 44%. Number 8, pay at close, right? So this is Zillow Flex, this is Ojo, this is anything in that category where you're just getting paid at, you get the lead for free, and then you pay at the closing table instead of upfront. Usually you've got a report on the lead along the way as well. And so a lot of trade-offs involved there. That one's got a total score of 47, and that's why it comes in at number 7 on the list. It's a great lead source, especially if you're a new agent, but you got to understand the trade-offs, and we'll get into that later on down the road. Now, pay-per-click, PPC, pay-per-click, right? So that usually is referring to a Google search lead. And that's different than a social media lead, because social media is attention-based. People are scrolling through. A lot of times they see a certain property or a realtor or some call to action that stops their scroll, gets them to click. Pay-per-click is different. It's intent-based, right? So they are searching with a problem for a specific term, and that is when you're presented to them, or they somehow funnel their way to you. And so it's a higher percentage, and you're going to get a better return on your investment, especially of time as well as money. So you get a slight boost, 44 versus 48% for number 6, pay-per-click. Number 5. Search engine optimization, right? So if you've got a website or a YouTube channel or some other search-based platform that's funneling people to you, a lot of times you've already got the authority, you've got the intent, you've got a lot of good things working for you. Now, it takes a lot of building, takes a lot of expertise, but when you get that working for you, those are fantastic leads and lower competition to go along with it. Next up, social media, organic, right? So if you've seen influencers or people building up their channels, those have a low barrier to entry. It's free to do it for the most part. As far as money, it takes a good amount of time, some expertise. It's a crowded space now, but the social media organic side of things can take on a lot of momentum as well, right? And that, if you know what you're doing, can be a fantastic source of business for you. So it's a great strategy, and we'll get into the details of how to do it, okay? Now, one of my favorites, geographic farming. When you look at all the factors involved in that, what's geographic farming? Geographic farming is when you take a neighborhood and you try to become the dominant or one of the dominant go-to agents in that neighborhood, and you spend a lot of time and attention inside of a neighborhood or a community to become the go-to agent that everyone knows and refers. And if you can pull that off, it is a rich reward to do. A lot of agents do it. It's a very tried and true strategy. A lot of approaches, especially if you blend digital with the physical to make it count. It's an excellent source of business. The other thing I love about geographic farming is that if you pick your own neighborhood, you have a very short drive. And so it lets you be very efficient with your time, which as a realtor, your time is all you have. So that factor is really, really important, especially to me. Now, your sphere of influence, your SOI sphere of influence. Now, your sphere of influence is everyone that you know, everyone that knows, likes, and or trusts you, right? And this is a great source of business that you've got high trust with, that you can communicate with through some system. It can be very basic or very advanced, but it's an excellent source of business. But it does take a system and a strategy to make that potential lead source turn into a productive lead source, okay? So that one comes in with a total score of 62. Number 2, agent-to-agent referrals. Agent-to-agent referrals are when one agent, oftentimes from another market or sometimes inside of your own market, but usually in a different market, refer a client to you. They're moving from their market to your market or the other way around. And there's a high level of trust here, a high level of intent. These are incredible referrals to get, okay? And there's a system that you can put together to cultivate agent-to-agent referrals. It's one of my favorite strategies. Now, you will pay a referral fee, 25, 30, 45, 50, 60%, and sometimes I'm going to even include team leads within this category, because if your team lead is the one that produces the referral, right, and then they hand it off to an agent on their team, it's a fantastic referral source. The trust is there. It's just time for you to go do your job and be a great agent and earn repeating business. And number 1, of course, referrals, right? When a past client or somebody else that knows you is referring a client to you, right? that referral source is as good as it gets. If you've been an agent, you've seen that one transaction can turn into a referral, can turn into another referral, can turn into another referral. And countless agents throughout the years have built their entire business based on this, and there's strategies for it. Of course, it's a good source of business. However, the only trade-off is that everybody would like it. It's not quite as immediate or predictable, right? There's a building process that goes along with it. Now, it's an incredible source of business because it's free, it's cheap, the leads find you, there's very little competition, and it can build up some really nice momentum. I remember a baby shower where someone passed around my business card to all the people, and I got like 3 referrals from it. From a previous client that just invited me to their baby shower at their brand new house that I helped them get. And so it's an incredible source of leads. That's at the top of the pyramid. Referrals are as good as it gets, and there's no referral fee, right? So you've heard of the hierarchy of needs. Now you've got the agent's hierarchy of referrals. We'll dig into this, and I'll get into all the specifics so that you can follow along. Now, if you'd like access to this calculator, let me know. I don't have it built out yet, but we can build it out and share it with you. So put in a comment somewhere if you'd like access to this spreadsheet so you can do your own calculations and figure out what's going to be the best option for you. And if you'd like to see more of these videos or a deep dive into any one of these specific categories, put that into the comments somewhere too, and so we know where to focus our next few videos. And we're going to do a deep dive into all of these different lead sources, how we got to these things, if you'd like to, coming up in future videos. So follow along. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. By the way, if we're just getting to know each other, I'm Alan Reynolds, and together with my wife, Monica, we're the Modern Agent Alliance team.